Well, g'day everybody, it's Nigel here from Sax School and welcome to our Sax School Live number 6 on this Monday evening. Thanks for coming along and having a chat with us. We're just going to have some fun, have a chat about saxophone for the next half an hour or so, and I've already got a big long list here of all the stuff I want to talk to you about, but I'm also keen to answer your questions. So if you've got something you want some help with, jump in the chat, say hi, and give me a question, and we're going to see if we can cover it. Actually, you know, I've got the whole team. We've got a full house in here today. Everybody's here. Chris is here. How's everybody doing?
Hey, everyone.
Claire's here.
Hi, hi.
So everyone's beavering away in the background here, answering your questions. So we're going to go have a chat with those two in a minute. But please do jump in and say hi, and we're going to try and get through as many questions as we can. Now, if we've not met each other before, so I'm Nigel, and I run this thing called Sax School, which is a big online community of saxophone learners. In fact, we've got thousands and thousands of people who use Sax School now, and you know, Sax School is really cool because it's all about finding your own path and learning at your own pace. So there's hundreds and hundreds of lessons in there. You can go through and work through different courses, different lessons, find what you're interested in, and then all the lessons are very clearly laid out with 2 cameras and loads of resources and stuff. So it makes learning fun, actually. And also within our Sax School, we've got a fantastic, vibrant community of learners too. Just thousands of people from all around the world that are connecting and having a lot of fun learning saxophone. So if you want to find out more about Sax School and become part of our Sax School family and see how Sax School can help you, you can get a 30-day trial at McGillmusic.com. There's a link in the description for this post. So, have we got some guys, got some people in the call here, Claire?
We've already got people joining us already, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Good to hear it, good to hear it. We'll come back and check out some of those questions in a sec. Now I thought before we get started, because we've been doing this in the last few weeks and it's been a lot of fun, I've got a quiz for you today. And the quiz is kind of related to stuff that I've been checking out this week. And it was a good question. I guess it was something that I didn't really know about. Maybe, I'm sure you guys are pretty smart. I bet you probably know the answer to this. So here's the quiz for this week. So I was checking out David Fathead Newman this week, who is a fantastic tenor player. He's one of those sort of Texas tenor guys, and he was lead tenor for Ray Charles for a long, long time. But my question is, who was the guy that David Fathead Newman replaced in Ray Charles's band? So who was the guy that David Fathead Newman took over from on that lead tenor chair in Ray Charles's band? See if you know the answer. We're going to come back to it at the end of the session, and I'll let you know, and I'll tell you the sort of things I've been checking out about this too. So you guys keep an eye on the answers too. See if we've got any people that picked it up. This lot are pretty smart. I bet they're going to get this one. Okay, so, well, let me tell you, before we get stuck in with some questions, I thought I'd tell you a bit about what I've been up to this week. As always, flat out, I've been making some videos for Sax School. This week we did our Sax School Masterclass, which is something we do once a month. Load of fun. We get about, I don't know, 50, 60 people from Sax School together on a group video chat. We all see each other, and I get 3 or 4 people from Sax School to play, and we work through problems and issues that they're having with their playing, and it's really, really interesting, a great learning opportunity. So we did one of those last week, and that's the new lesson that's inside the Sax School members area. But also I made a video this week on my YouTube channel, which is all about finding more inspiration with blues and blues lines and transcribing, and I look at a solo from David Fathead Newman in that video. So if you want to find out more about that, check the show notes or go over to my YouTube channel and check that out. We'll put all these details actually in the show notes tomorrow, so if you want to come back and get the links for that. So that's what I've been up to. What about you, Claire? What have you been up to this week?
Loads going on in the Facebook group as usual. Yeah, really, really busy week with the Facebook group.
They're always posting stuff in that Facebook group, aren't they?
They are.
It's really, really great.
Yeah, lots of people sharing videos of their playing, and loads of people offering support and encouragement, which is great. Some people sharing experiences of playing live for the first time, which is really lovely.
Hey, didn't we have this week, for those who are on this session that aren't Sax School members, there's been a really cool thing happening about the jazz camp thing.
Oh, that was brilliant, yeah. So we had a whole group of members who went up to Scotland.
I've got a photo. Should we show them a photo?
Oh, show the photo. It's brilliant.
Look at that.
All in their t-shirt. Absolutely awesome.
In their Sax School shirts.
And they joined like a jazz summer school with their saxophones. There was lots of different musicians there and some really fantastic pro players. And they just had a really great time. But what was amazing were these were Sax School members who've been connecting through the Facebook group, and obviously through Sax School, we'd never met before in real life, and somebody described it as being a bit like a blind date, which I thought was just
that's a bit weird, but I guess I can understand what they're talking about. And you know, I think that's one of the cool things about learning music is it connects you with other people. And through Sax School, we've got so many people, but they're all over the world, so they don't always get to know each other. But they're talking to each other through the Facebook group all the time, aren't they, Claire?
Yeah, I mean, that's really great on the chat, and lots of people always offering encouragement to each other and sort of offering suggestions with their playing and maybe sort of helping each other out with the little problems that are coming across.
Yeah, definitely. And also building videos, they're making videos together too, which is really cool. But events like this week, I guess it's like a week-long jazz camp up in Scotland, they actually get to meet each other and hang out together. So, you know, music is bringing people together. And plus, apart from the Sax School people, they're meeting all the other. I think I talked to the organizer of that jazz camp today, and he said there was 81 people at that jazz camp. So a great opportunity to meet a bunch of people. And you know, in Sax School, I'm often talking about how music is it's a conversational thing. It's a way to communicate with people. Through our saxophones, we communicate with people, and when you get together with a whole bunch of other musicians, you've got that common language that brings you together, and that's a fantastic part about being a musician. So if you're learning now by yourself and you haven't yet played with another group, or it could be a community band, it could be, I don't know, a church band, or it could just be getting together with some mates on a Sunday afternoon, having a barbie and playing some tunes. Whatever it is, playing together with other musicians is a really important part of learning. So I definitely promote that. I think that's really, really good. Okie dokie. What? Should we get cracking with some questions, you reckon?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I had some really good questions this week. Okay, so here's the first one. Don't forget, if you've got a question, make sure you stick it in the chat, because I'm going to try and get through as many of your questions as I can. So the first question I had this week, which I thought was a really good one, Kiran Vasani sent me a message and said that they were asking, is it better to stand or sit whilst playing the saxophone? Actually, it seems like a kind of obvious question, but I get asked this quite a lot. In my videos, I'm often sitting down when I'm in the videos, and that's because what are you laughing about?
There's loads of people going, where do I get a t-shirt? Where do I get a t-shirt?
Oh, well.
That's really left out, because Chris and I have got our new t-shirts.
Oh, you do? Yeah, can you see them? Look.
Yeah,
we've got our t-shirts.
Yeah, the t-shirts is a bit of a thing.
Well, these are our new t-shirts. Does everybody like them? Do you like them? I like them. I think they're nice. And you can actually, t-shirts are available for off the Sax School website. Actually, if you go right at the bottom of the website, we'll put a link in the show notes. There's a link where you can buy t-shirts. And I know there's quite a lot of Sax School members that are quite proud of being Sax School members and like to wear the t-shirt. So if you want to get one, you can get it from there. Okay. Plus they look cool, don't you think? Okay, so this question. Now I sit down in my videos because I'm videoing them and I've got cameras and I don't want to be moving around too much. Normally when I'm practicing for myself, I stand up, and I like to stand up when I'm playing because it feels better. But it doesn't really matter whether you stand or sit. The important thing is about posture. So when you are playing a saxophone, whether you're sitting or standing, it's really, really important that your back is straight, your shoulders are relaxed, and you're holding your saxophone in a way so that there's no extra pressure or tension on any part of your body. If you're new to saxophone, this is one of those common things that people get wrong. And a good way to check actually is to try practicing in front of a mirror. So in your room where you're practicing, make sure you can see yourself in a mirror. It gives you a chance to check that your hair still looks good. But you can also look for things like your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Is there any tension? Are your shoulders up like this? Or are your hands at sort of weird positions like that? Everything should be as natural as you possibly can. And if you're thinking about that and your back is straight and your arms are relaxed and your shoulders and your neck's all relaxed, then sitting is not going to have any detrimental effect on your playing in comparison to standing. So if you are a bit more of an advanced player and you're playing in a concert band or a big band or a community band, then chances are you're going to be sitting down in rehearsal anyway. So tenor sax players on the side, alto sax players can be on the side or can be in front. It's completely up to you. But the only important thing is about posture. Everything's got to be relaxed. Another good thing to think about with that too is if you are relaxed and your head's straight and your back is straight, then the air can flow out more easily you've got less, you're wasting less energy, you're more efficient, so you can really just focus on playing and getting a great sound. So I hope that answers your question. I don't have, there's no reason why I would say to people to not practice sitting down. If it's comfortable for you, just make sure your posture's right. There you go. That's enough of a rant on that one, Claire. What do you reckon?
That's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
There's a comment actually. Somebody saying that they use a sax holder instead of a neck strap because of an injury, and that they felt that a neck strap wouldn't be good for them. So I suppose it just depends on if you've got any particular issues like that. You need to just adapt what you're doing to.
Yeah, no, those sax holder things are really, really popular, and I know a lot of our members do use them, and a lot of pro players I see now are using them as well. Actually, if you do use a sax holder, let us know in a comment, because you're not alone. I think they're a great product. We did an article, we did a review on them, Claire. Did we do an article on them ages ago?
Yeah, we did actually. We did an article.
It's on the blog somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the blog. We should put it on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use one myself. I've never really had a neck problem, but if you do suffer from any sort of neck or back problems, they're great because they put the pressure on your shoulders and they keep your neck more isolated. Have you ever used one, Chris?
No, I can't say I have, but I saw a few people using them with Barry saxophones because obviously they're quite heavy, and they always reported that they were really useful. So
is that Barry sax with the sax holder?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like a harness. I think I saw a couple of people use like a harness kind of.
Yeah, that's quite a common thing actually.
Yeah.
I've even seen people play Barry sax but with a spike, and no neck strap at all, and it's quite a common thing in an orchestra pit actually.
Yeah, one of the jazz lecturers at my old college used a stick on the end of his tenor saxophone, and it really helped him with his posture. Yeah,
because he has a lot of back problems.
Yes, he does. Yeah, and he's said that it's a lifesaver. So definitely look into that if you're having some issues with posture or back problems.
And he's a monster sax player, a really great sax player. But so at the end of the day, all of these things come down to making sure that your posture is right. That enables you then to play your saxophone to your full capacity. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Allowing your fingers to move those keys in the freest way possible. So whatever works for you, that it's about focusing on the right thing. Okie dokie. So that's the first question. Hey, let us know, guys, if there's any other questions that come through too. So I had another good question. Oh, this is a good one actually. Javier sent this question in. It says, so this is a good question, and this might resonate with you if you're watching this call and you're relatively new to saxophone. So Javier says, "Hi Nigel, I just decided to pick up saxophone again. I played for 6 months in high school, but I've come back to it." He says, "In the first 2 weeks, everything went really, really great. But all of a sudden, I'm squeaking a lot and it's making practicing not enjoyable anymore. It feels like I'm out of control, even though I've essentially done everything the same. What is going on?" Okay, so there's a bunch of different things, Javier, that could be going on here. And if you're new to saxophone and you've had a similar problem to this, let me know in the comments, because it's not a non-common thing, this. So there's a couple things to think about. First of all, with regards to the saxophone and the mouthpiece, if you're pretty new to it, the mouthpiece and the reed is the thing that can change, and they do wear out. It could be, Javier, that you've got a cane reed on there and your reed, after a couple of weeks of being played on, is changing and it's warping and it's not sealing properly. So changing your reed or checking your reed. I've got some videos on my YouTube channel about using a reed geek, which is a little tool you can use to make sure that your reed is flat on the back, so the reed definitely seals on the mouthpiece. Things like that are really, really important and easy to overlook when you're new to saxophone. So the first thing you should check out is your reed. But more likely, I think what the problem could be is that your embouchure is changing. Because when we get into saxophone again, if you've never played before, or if we're coming back to it after taking a long break away from playing saxophone, is that your muscles in your mouth change and your body's going to start to respond differently to the mouthpiece. So you need to really think a lot about how your embouchure is shaped when you're playing, making sure that you haven't gotten into any bad habits with the position of your lip, the position of how much mouthpiece you've got in your mouth. It's going to probably feel different after a couple of weeks. So it might be just an indication that you need to take a couple of steps backward and go back to really thinking about getting that embouchure shape correct, making sure you've got a good cushion for your reed, keeping a nice round seal with your lips, and your posture, like we're talking about on the previous question, is right. If you check through those things and also change your reed, I bet you're going to solve that problem. it's just about, you know, things changing and getting settled in. What do you think, Chris? Do you reckon that's a fair?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always good tips there. We've actually had a question from Sean regarding overtones. He said, I tend to raise my shoulders when I do overtones. I'm having problems with hitting those overtones if I don't. Do you have any tips for this, Nigel?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I was actually going to say, just before you jump in, because there are definitely some technique tips that you could go over, but if you're having issues with your shoulders and you tend to hunch up, what's probably happening is you're getting really close to that altissimo note, and then you're thinking, oh no, I've got to hit it. So what's happening is it's a psychological thing. So if you imagine yourself looking down on that note instead, you might actually overcome that issue and help relax as you're trying to hit it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a good tip, Chris. And it's interesting, you know, our brains work in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. So it's not an uncommon thing to associate one thing with another, even though they're not related in any way possible. So hunching your shoulders when you're playing a high note, really, you may think that it makes it easier to get that note, but there's no bearing on what's happening in here. So ultimately, hunching your shoulders is a bad idea when you're playing, full stop. So I think firstly, it's brilliant that you can get these overtone notes. That's fantastic. But I think the best way to move forward with it is, again, to take a step backwards and to get that first overtone note that you can get out and practice it like you would any other note, where you're doing long tones, really developing the sound at the same time, thinking about your posture, making sure you're relaxed, your shoulders are relaxed, you're watching yourself in the mirror. And then once you nail that and you get really confident with it, then move on to that next note, keeping everything else the same. By being systematic in that way, you are going to develop your technique in a much better way, a much sort of more long-lasting way. And I think it's going to open up a lot more things for you. So that'd be my top tip. It's so easy to fall into those traps. So I've done it myself in my playing. I remember when I was younger doing things like that. And sometimes we see pro players too that do things like that end up being a bit of a trademark for them, but they're not always good things, and they can lead to problems down the track. It's true, isn't it?
Yeah, we've had quite a few people jumping on saying that they had the same thing, where they maybe made some good progress and they reached a bit of a plateau, and they had to work through that and kind of overcome that problem before they managed to, they're sort of saying, oh, I'm really glad that I did stick with it because I overcame it, and then that embouchure got stronger and playing got easier. So
that's awesome, that, isn't it? Yeah, we're all going through the same struggles. So, all going through the same, press the wrong button there, that was funny, wasn't it? We're all going through the same struggles, so it's really encouraging actually to hear those comments from people. But at the end of the day, I think playing saxophone is a lot like being an athlete. You need to be really systematic about what you're doing. You need to think a lot about your physiology and be aware of things that are going on, and then fix things that are issues, because those physical things like habits with this or habits with your embouchure are going to hold you back, and you need to overcome them before you can progress. Super important. Hey, there's some good conversations going on here today, aren't there?
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah,
really good. Okay, rightio. So I had another question, and this is another good one actually. Rightio. Well, I don't know whether I should do this one or... Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, this is a good question. So Stephanie Jackman is a Sax School student, and she's quite a good player actually. And she was asking me this question. She said, hi Nigel, last week you talked about mouthpieces and sticking with a single mouthpiece. And yeah, that's something that I say quite a lot. She said, but I've got a question for you, because I changed to a second mouthpiece a little while back for a big band. So she uses an RPC mouthpiece for playing in big band, which gives us enough control. But she's also going to do a classical piece for a concert coming up soon, and she has a classical mouthpiece. And she's saying, is it okay to use two different mouthpieces, and or is it going to cause an issue? What are my thoughts on that? Now, I thought this was a good question. So first of all, let me say, generally, I suggest people use a single mouthpiece because it makes things easier. You can only got one mouthpiece to think about. A mouthpiece, is a relationship you need to have with that piece of plastic or metal or hard rubber or whatever. In order to get the best sound, you need to get your embouchure used to it. You need to invest a lot of time in it to get the right sound. So obviously, if you've got two mouthpieces, it's twice as much work. So generally, I suggest people find a single mouthpiece and get the best sound they can on that. That's going to suit all of the things that they want to do. However, as your playing progresses, if you get to be a more advanced intermediate player or an advanced player or a pro player, then it's not an uncommon thing to have two different mouthpieces for different jobs if you're that sort of player that does a variety of things. If I think about myself, years ago I was playing in a classical orchestra. So, on Monday I might be doing a rehearsal with a massive symphony orchestra and doing some concert that's being broadcast or something like that. But on Friday I might be playing with a big band and doing a stand-up and playing solos in a swing sort of setting. So I need a completely different sort of sound for those two things. I might also be doing a pop gig or something like that. So back then I had a classical mouthpiece which I used, which for me it was a Selmer C Star, and then I had a Yanagisawa metal mouthpiece I used for all of my other playing. So that enabled me to get a great sound for a big band and a great sound for classical, because if I turned up to a professional symphony orchestra with a metal big band type mouthpiece, that would end badly. That's not a good thing to do. But conversely, if I turned up to a big band and I had a proper classical sound, big round dark sound, I'm not going to fit in with the rest of the section. So there's nothing wrong with doing that, and a lot of players that I know that might be playing a West End show and then also doing a jazz gig or doing a pop gig will do exactly that. In fact, so if you actually, let me know if you are using more than one mouthpiece, let me know in a comment, because that'd be interesting to see. We get any comments on that?
Yeah, quite a few people actually saying that they, Bronte says, I found out you use one mouthpiece for classical and another for everything else.
Yeah.
People said similar things, so that's interesting, yeah.
It is, it's really interesting. Now here's the caveat though, so if you do that, you need to be prepared to spend equal amounts of time on both of those mouthpieces. So for Stephanie who's asking that question, I think it's okay, provided that you are prepared to spend the time to develop a sound on each of those. It's almost like, we've had a conversation a few times on these calls about learning alto and learning tenor, and I've always said, you got to treat them like two different instruments, and you've got to spend time on each of them the same way. Well, that's kind of the same thing. You've got two different mouthpieces. You need to spend time in your practice schedule working on both of those and having a clear idea of the sort of sound that you're going for each of them. So that way you don't sound like a classical guy just with a different mouthpiece in, or a big band guy that's just happened to got a classical mouthpiece in. You need to have a clear identity on each of those mouthpieces, an idea of the sort of sound that you're going for. It's a good question. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. I used to use a jazz mouthpiece, and I found that it was a little bit too vibrant for the tone that I was going. It was actually while I was doing the classical exams, and so I switched over, but there was a brief transition period where I had two at the same time. It was sort of throwing off my practice, so I decided just to stick with one. It was a good decision overall, but you can definitely play with two. Yeah,
you can, but it does take time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does.
Because if you don't invest that time, and I bet you found this as well, if you don't invest the time, when you go back to your classical mouthpiece, nothing sort of feels right. It doesn't. The sound isn't. Yeah.
The control as well, like just little things like vibrato can have a massive difference if you're using two different mouthpieces. Yeah. It can just be all over the place.
The other thing is intonation. Can really affect your intonation.
Definitely,
yeah. So no, it's a good point. It's tricky, but good, cool. Hey, you got any other good questions?
Just a comment from John Carlo. He says that I was able to play an alt G with my Selmer S80C, but I won't pop out with the SIG.
Slant SIG?
Slant SIG.
Yeah. You're getting in on the lingo now, Claire, aren't you? You're getting in on the lingo.
So I guess that's just an issue, like you were saying, practicing with different mouthpieces.
Yeah, I mean, John Carlo, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So, those two mouthpieces, the C, so the S80 Selmer C is different to the slant SIG. The inside of it is different. The shape, the chamber is different. So they perform differently. They react to your air in a different way. So you need to learn how to get those altissimo notes on that new mouthpiece, the slant SIG. It just takes time, investing in time, working on long tones and all that sort of stuff.
Another interesting question there, Nigel, actually, that what did you want to talk about, actually? Igor asks, how much does smoking affect sax players?
Good question. Good question. I'm not a smoker. I've never been a smoker. It's kind of funny, isn't it? It's 1940s and 1950s. All these guys that we have spent lots of hours listening to, they were all smokers. Everyone smoked back then. I'd probably say to you, it doesn't affect you at all. Personally, I don't know. Personally, I would say it's not really going to help you in any way. So I can't see it's a positive. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. I don't smoke, and I go running, and I like to be fit and healthy because the amount of air that I'm putting through my saxophone is really important to me. I don't want to be held back. It's a bit like we were talking about posture before. Good question though. Rightio. Hey, we're running out of time, aren't we? There was hey Claire, didn't we? You were telling me about Jess Gillan this week, weren't you?
Oh yeah. That was really good actually. So was it about 2 years ago now? Jess reached out to you, Nigel, didn't she? And she was doing some gigs, and she wanted us to know about them. And she was a really young. She was like 16.
Yeah, I think
she was just amazing. She was obviously so committed and so driven and everything to what they're playing. And then just recently, we're getting all this publicity about her. She's been signed to Decca Classics.
Wow, yeah, pretty cool.
And she's just won an award at the Classic Brits, which is just fantastic. Now, she's still only like 20 or something.
Is she even that old? Yeah, she's really young. So Jess Gillan is a young classical saxophone player from England. And actually, I was reading something about her today, and it was saying that and I didn't know this actually, I don't know if you knew this, Chris, but apparently she's the first saxophone player to be signed to Decca. I was surprised by that. I thought that they'd had other saxophone artists. Anyway, so there's a couple of really cool things about that. First of all, so she's a classical saxophone player, which we're a bit of a dying breed, really, classical saxophone players. I studied classically actually, although I've always worked as a jazz musician. At the time that I went to study music, that was the best option. So I went and did a classical degree, and I really enjoyed working through that classical repertoire. Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends, or in the evenings, I'll be out playing Coltrane and Cannonball Adderley and bebop and all that other sort of stuff, or pop stuff. So checking out all sorts of things, which I think really helped me from a learning point of view. But I'm really impressed with, classical guys, great players. It's amazing from a saxophone playing point of view what they're able to do. Technique is incredible, tone control. Fingering, all that sort of stuff. And Jess is a really great player. So I'm impressed with her playing, but also amazing, like Claire was saying, that, even when she was 16 years old, actually, do you remember, Claire, she got in touch with us because she was promoting events?
Yeah,
do you remember that?
Yeah, she was promoting an event with another player, John...
Oh, John Hull, yeah, he was one of the big classical guys.
Who I think has been like a mentor to her. I think he's mentored her, because I noticed it recently that she'd done another gig with him, and she was talking about what she'd been doing and what an influence he'd had on her playing. I
mean, he's one of the, a great established classical saxophone artist, and the fact that she was organising that at 16 is amazing. And now she's on the way. She's got a record deal. Was she BBC? She was a finalist on the BBC Young Artist.
She was, and she's done a lot of talking about the importance of music in schools and the importance of children having the opportunity to learn music. And she's a real advocate for that, which is just brilliant. And you see her being interviewed by Classic FM, and she's talking, and she's I think she's doing great things for the saxophone and for classical saxophone. You know
what? We should get her on. I should make a video with her for YouTube. Actually, we should reach out and have a chat. I'd love to have a chat with her. I think it's really, really interesting. But there's another interesting question that comes out of this conversation, which I thought might be good to have a quick chat with just before we wrap up. And that is, so Jess is a classical saxophone player. For most people out there, most of you guys, I'll bet the whole idea of being a classical saxophone player is kind of random and alien. It's not something you really thought about. So there's a question, is it even important to check out classical repertoire? And, well, there's different viewpoints on this. There's plenty of teachers that would really only push for studying jazz and focusing on that. Personally, I think it's good to do a bit of everything. And the reason is that it helps to round out your skills. So I was saying before about how what I love about listening to classical players is the attention to detail with things like tone, intonation, technique, and those skills transfer into any other style of playing. So if you are coming back to saxophone, let's say, and you're wanting to get your skills together, then absolutely looking at transcriptions of classic solos and working through jazz tunes and improvising skills is great, but at the same time I do think it's a great idea to devote a little bit of practice time to working on classical studies, etudes, pieces. Actually, Chris, we should have a chat with you about that, because you came through, I've known Chris for a long time, actually. I taught you when you were a teenager, Chris, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And then you went through, more than me, actually. You went through, when you were at school, and did all the exams right up to the very top.
I did.
On saxophone and clarinet, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, scarily good clarinet player, as well as saxophone. But you, now when I look at the sort of gigs you're doing, you love doing your sort of prog rock and different sort of playing. Did you see a value in doing, because you were, I mean, what the sort of classical playing you're doing is like way above what most people are doing, because it's pretty advanced stuff. But did you see that it helped you?
Yeah, definitely. I think, to be honest, a lot of it, just the theory behind it is actually really useful. And knowing all of that theory really does transition into all different genres, whether it's pop or jazz. And it's really helped me through college, especially with composition. I do a lot of composition now,
Okay.
and you know, it's just really useful for that kind of thing. But also with things like scales as well. Like if you come across a tricky piece of music or a tricky passage, if you can break it down into little sections of scales, it can really help. And you know, those exams take you through that kind of thing. And yeah, it is a really useful thing to learn.
Yeah, it's kind of like giving you that really great foundation that you can build upon, and you can go. I found personally, as a you know, in my playing, so I was doing all this full-on classical stuff, but I was also doing this other playing, and then I went off to do all sorts of different things, leading bands and playing all different sorts of styles, and I always had that foundation of being a really good technician, having good intonation, a good reader, and that meant that I could go off and do ska, blues, you know, pop, smooth jazz, you know, bebop, whatever I could, because I already had that basic technique. And I'm sure you found the same thing, Chris.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think that it's a valuable thing. And if you've not, well, maybe you can let me know in a quick comment, actually, if you do any classical stuff in your practicing. Are we getting any comments on that?
We are actually, quite a few people have mentioned it. Mike Bennett said, I'm hoping to include classical in my repertoire, which I only discussed with my tutor today. So
Awesome.
if people are interested in it, actually, I think it would see the benefit of it.
Yeah, because, you know, I think, and I've said this before on these sessions, that being a musician, one of the cool things about it is you can do all different styles of music. There's so many different things to explore, and classical is just another flavour of saxophone. Right, we're kind of running out of time. You guys are amazing. I can't believe all these comments and stuff we've had today. So we've got something that we've got to finish before we finish up, and that is the quiz. The quiz. So the question was, David Fathead Newman, the legend, who was the lead tenor player for Ray Charles's band, who did he replace? So this is probably, I don't know, mid-50s or something. Who's the guy that he replaced? Do we get any answers of this yet, by the way, guys?
We did, yeah. We got Roger Renard was the first person to answer, and got some from Dave Porter as well, and Paul Liebritz as well, yeah.
Roger, that's amazing. Roger got it last time too. He's a clever camper. Rightio, so the question is Don Wilkerson. So Don Wilkerson was the guy who was in Ray Charles's band, the lead tenor, before David Fathead Newman came in. Now, I've been listening to him a lot this week, because I started off checking out some David Fathead Newman stuff, because I love his playing. And I was researching, like all of us do, and checking out Spotify and iTunes and stuff, and I've been checking out these albums, so Texas Twister, Elder Don, and Preach Brother. So if you can find any of that stuff, Don Wilkerson stuff, then I would definitely suggest going and checking it out, because, you know, you can see a little bit of the, well, I guess the growth of the evolution of saxophone playing from guys like this, because they inspired people that followed afterward. And to my ears, he's got that great 50s sound. It's really cool. There's lots of things that will inspire you with your playing too. So check that out, and I hope you enjoy listening to some of that this week. I'm sure are there any other quick questions that we need to cover? Because
there's loads of questions. I think we're going to have to pick them up in another session. There's so much. People are being brilliant. They're just coming up with loads of comments and questions and stuff for us. So I think we'll
awesome.
pick a few out.
We
maybe
will
go into the comments and answer a few later. But yeah,
brilliant. Okay, well, hey, thanks for sticking around with us for this half an hour, and thanks for getting involved too with so many comments, and your feedback for these sessions is great. I really enjoy it. Something that would really help us out, by the way, is if you could share this on your Facebook feed, because hey, we're just getting together, having some fun, talking about saxophone, hopefully sharing some help to help you guys and anyone who's playing saxophone. So you could help us by sharing this on your Facebook feed, and that would help to get the word out. We'll be doing this again next Monday. That'll be our last one for a little while. in this season of Sax School Lives. So I hope you'll come along and join us next Monday. We're going to have a bunch more things to have a chat about, and hopefully we'll get to some more of your questions too. So whatever you're doing this week, have an awesome week. Get lots of practice done. Maybe check out some classical in your practice schedule. And I look forward to catching up with you next Monday. See you later.